Coming up on this very special one-off winter episode of the My Moneycast, sponsored by SGN, we're going to be talking about the price caps that have been changing all year. We're going to be thinking about ways to make the most of your money over this winter period. And we're going to be looking at ways to stay safe and warm over winter with a special video from SGN. It's 4 o'clock, it's a Monday, but it's still the same old My Moneycast by MyBnk. Welcome to the show. Like I say, we're going to be talking all things energy and saving money this week. But as always, my name is Nick Smith-Patel. I'm your host for the Moneycast. And like I say, it's a special one. We're sponsored by SGN, so we're going to be looking at energy and saving cash. Two things that a lot of people are thinking about over this winter period, especially with Christmas and all those festivities coming up. As always, you can find us on social media in any of these places, including our new TikTok, which is on this side here. Have a look and check us out. Give us a like and a heart. Other than that, if you want to get a hold of us, you can always email us as usual. You can find us at info@mybank.org. So send us an email if you have a message for us. But if you have nothing to say, then it's all good. You have the chat. You can talk to us now. We're live in the chat with you as we speak. And let's get into it. Let's move into our first section, which is Heads Up. And it's a weird one because we're going to be talking about ourselves. So you might remember back in, I think it was January or February, we did two very special episodes around the cost of energy and energy safety. And one of the things we talked about was the price cap, that the government was changing the amount that energy companies could charge us for our energy. Well, we have an update, but before we give you the update, here's what we said last time about the energy cap.
Price cap difference is for the average household at the moment. So let's take a look at this information we've got. So at the moment, the price cap means that for electric, each unit of electric you use is capped at 21 pence per unit, and they can charge 25p a day as a standing charge. From April, that will rise to 28p per unit and 45p per day on the standing charge. As for gas, the current rate is 4 pence per unit and 26 per day in a standing charge. When the cap increases in April, that will be going up to 7 pence per unit with a 27p per day charge. And that comes from Ofgem in February 2022.
So, as you can see, those price caps went up to September, but we're in December now, so what's going on with the price capping now? Unfortunately, it has gone up again, and it is due to go up again in April. So here are the numbers you need to know in terms of the costs right now. So the previous cap went up to the 30th of September, and up until that point, these were the charges. So for each unit of electricity you use, they were going to charge you up to 28 pence, the most they could charge, with a daily charge of 45p a day. Remember, think about that as line rental. Gas is slightly different. It's 7p per unit with a 27p a day charge. However, from the 1st of October until the 31st of March next year, those caps are going to increase so that they can charge you up to 34 pence per electricity unit and up to 10 pence per gas unit, with the daily charges going up by 1p each on each of those different types of energy. Now, the price cap in March is probably going to go up again, and we think it will go up not as much as it has done, but again, it will go up a little bit. So some of you may be getting some help. Every household in the UK should be getting £400 towards their energy bills, their electric bills. Some companies have started to pay that directly to you. So you might notice that after you've paid your bill for the month, that you've actually got £66 or so in your account sent back from your energy company. Our top tip right now, use that to pay more on your energy bill. We don't want anyone to be left short. So that £66 that's being sent to you, really, if you stick it on your account, you shouldn't be short going forward into the future. Some companies are leaving that £400 as credit, so you won't actually see that cash. But if it is coming to you, do make sure you're thinking about whether it's better to keep it or whether to put it back on your energy and save that money for the future. But the big thing to say again, before we go any further, if you do need help, make sure you ask for help, okay? Every energy and gas company has some scheme in place, as well as lots of government help out there to help out. If you're on benefits, do make sure there's anything you're able to claim that you're not getting at the moment from your benefit office. But the big golden rule for surviving the kind of winter period is make sure you're asking for help if you need it. We're going to talk about some ways that you can save some cash and understand what's going on with the cost of living, and that might help you be able to pay those bills if you're struggling. So let's get straight into that, and let's talk about that in the big topic. Right, so Let's talk about cost of living. And first of all, let's talk about a term you might have heard on the news, but you might not understand. Let's talk about inflation. What is inflation? Now, I'm going to do this really simply. Let's imagine that this pen cost me, I don't know, £1 last year. Right? But this year, the same pen cost me £1.10. We would say that that's gone up by 10%, right? Well, that means the inflation rate is on this pen is 10%. Last year it was 10%. It was 10% more expensive this year than it was last year. Now, when we talk about inflation and the numbers you hear in the news, the 10%, the 11%, whatever it is, what they do is they take a basket of goods and they look at how much they've gone up and they average it. So it might be things like milk, bread. But at one point, iPods were in that list as well. They take a look at how much the iPod cost has gone up in the last year and use that as a percentage. And they look at all these things as a basket of goods, and that's where you get that number from. So when you hear 10% inflation, 11% inflation, what that means in real terms is it's costing 10 or 11% more for you to buy the same things as you did last year. So your money is going a little bit less further than it was last time. Now, inflation is one way that we get less for our money, but there is another thing that's come around. You may have seen this. It's called shrinkflation. Now, if you've never heard of shrinkflation, here's a really good example from the people at This Morning.
Quality Street. This is this year's tin of Quality Street. It's a fiver. We all know you go into your supermarket, this size tin, it's a fiver, and it was last year and the year before. This is how many fewer chocolates you're getting
from
last year. From last year.
No, wait.
Yes.
It's just a bit sneaky.
Well, it feels a bit sneaky, but it's
a lot.
It
It is
quite
a lot, especially for
isn't
such a
it?
tiny tin.
Now, I'm sure you've all seen things in the supermarkets that you've pretty sure that were bigger before. A lot of people talk about, Kinder eggs have got smaller over the years. Boxes of Quality Street, like they said, have got smaller over the years. That's what we call shrinkflation. You pay the same amount, but you get less for the same amount you pay. So that's one of the tricks that some companies will use to try and increase their profits without increasing their prices, because we know that if your price increases, you're less likely to buy it. Whereas if they just change what's in the box, you're less likely to notice. So it might be that, you've been questioning whether or not that's true or not. It's true. They are absolutely taking things out of the box to make a saving. As long as you're aware of that, you can make a choice. Do you keep buying the same product with less in it, or do you try and find something that's better value? Now, the other thing about this time of year and inflation, we talk about where you can cut costs. Now, there are some things in your life that are fixed. You're not going to be able to change your rent, for example, or your council tax. They're bills that you have very little control over in the grand scheme of things. But there are some things you are in control of, what we call your variable costs. And over winter, some of those variable costs really skyrocket. So we're going to have a look at 4 areas where you can save some cash this winter, and hopefully make life a little bit easier while still having a bit of fun over the winter period. So let's start with food and drink. Now, number one, first thing, if you're living with anyone else, group cooking is a great way to save cash, yeah? Rather than doing your own individual meals, coming together, talking to each other about what you want to cook, and then doing that as a group means you'll save money on things like, the big essentials. Doesn't work for everyone. I'm not saying everyone has to group cook, but if you have that option, it might be a great way to save some pennies. Also, brand challenge. Challenge yourself to go down one level. If you only ever eat branded goods, maybe try the highest level of the own brand stuff. And if that's okay, maybe try the medium brand stuff. Each brand challenge you take can save you pennies, and every penny counts round about now. So if you can afford to go down a step, you never know how much money that might save you. Also, consider whether you're using an air fryer, an oven, or a microwave. There are different pros and cons to all of those. Ovens tend to be more expensive to run than an air fryer, for example, and microwaves even cheaper than that. So if you can use an air fryer or a microwave, it might save you some pennies on the cost of heating your food. One thing to be aware of, be careful about spending too much money on a new air fryer. You don't want to offset the savings you would make by spending lots of money on a new device. So think about whether that line is right for you. Last but not least, batch cook. This is good for 2 reasons. Number one, you have all the meals ready for you in advance and you only have to buy one set of ingredients to do that, but it also saves you energy. You're only having to cook once and freeze once, and then you can just reheat in a microwave, which we know is cheaper than using an oven. So, few tips there about how to make food and drink just that little bit cheaper this winter. But what about clothing, for example? Well, let's talk about Depop. Have you ever used Vinted or Depop or any of those kind of pre-loved sites? Some really good bargains to be had on there. In fact, you can even search for brand new with tags in some of these sites. So you're searching for brand new clothes normally at a discount as well. So consider whether one of these pre-loved websites might be right for you, and don't always have to buy brand new. If you've never heard of Fat Llama's a really interesting one. You might decide that you want to borrow a pair of Yeezys, for example. Let me show you how. This is their website. So basically you go to the search bar, you type in whatever it is you're looking for. I've typed in Yeezys, for example, and you can see here that there's a few different options. You can then click into any of these options and find out a bit more about the rental or how much they're going to charge you. Now, not everyone likes the idea of borrowing someone else's shoes. I get that. And, you know, I'm not saying that this is something for everyone. But the other side to this is that you can rent out your old stuff as well. If you have got old things that you're not using, maybe it's back, you know, it's a way for you to make some extra cash. Rent out those things you're not using. Games, consoles, drones, video games, DVDs, all of those things are up for grabs. But you could also use it to rent clothing if you wanted to go out and wear something special and don't want to splash the cash on a permanent purchase. Here's something to think about. How many wears are you really going to get out of this piece of clothing you're going to buy? If you're buying a new pair of trainers and you're going to wear them every day, that's great because you're going to get loads of value out of that purchase. But if you're only going to wear it the once and it's going to sit in the back of your wardrobe, is it really worth it? And I know that there are some collectors out there that are screaming through the screen now, no, but I collect trainers. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is buying an item of clothing for, say, the Christmas party that you're only going to wear once. Is it really that important? Do you really need something new? Or could you just repurpose something that you had from last season, perhaps? Lastly, consider your heating costs when it comes to heating your clothing. A lot of people will use tumble dryers, really expensive to use. Some people have these newfangled air dryer things, which are a little bit better, but they're still costing you electric. You should consider whether air drying might be an option for you. Making sure that if you're in a flat, you've got your windows open so you don't get all that mold and condensation. But drying your clothes is one of the biggest costs of using a tumble dryer. So is there another way to do it? Could you just hang it on a line? If you have one of those air pump things, it's a good way to heat your room as well. So maybe 2 for 1 on that. But do think about that and consider whether you're washing in big enough batches. Putting one piece of clothing in a washing machine and then drying it is a real waste of energy. Make sure you're putting in as many clothes as you can in each batch, essentially. This is a time of year a lot of people think about going out and being with friends and family, right? So number one, going out doesn't always have to equal spending money, right? If you can get people to come around to yours and have a night in watching movies or kind of like a makeshift home picnic, as we call it, maybe that's a better way to do it. If you are going to go out and spend money, do be careful about your budgets and maybe only take out what you are willing to spend on that night. It's very, very easy to overspend. I watched a video the other day on TikTok about someone who'd gone to Winter Wonderland and spent £100 on food and drink in the 2 or 3 hours that they were there. If you only take £20 cash with you, that's all you're going to spend. So it might be an idea to think about budgeting yourself before you leave the house. If you do want to go out, maybe consider seat filling sites. I found this last year, had some really great deals as well. Let me show you what I mean. This is Central Tickets. Central Tickets is a website you can go to, you sign up to for free, and they basically email you when there are theatre shows that want to fill seats. So they haven't got enough tickets sold, they don't want the audience to look empty, they offer it to you for a booking fee. My recent good purchase, there is a musical on called Stranger Sings. You've seen the TV show, it's a musical parody. The tickets were meant to be £35. I spent £5 on a booking fee and got the same tickets as everybody else. If theatre isn't your bag, then you can now seat fill for restaurants as well. This is Soft Launch. Soft Launch London basically sends out emails of new restaurants that are opening this week, and they will be offering 50% off for people to come and help them train their new staff, to get used to the menu, all that kind of stuff. So when we talk about seat filling, it doesn't just have to be for theatres. You can now seat fill restaurants as well and get 50% off your meal. You're helping them train their staff, you're getting some cheaper food. It's a good win-win. Next up, one thing to be saying, I guess, is be honest with people if you can't do things. A lot of people will, what we call keeping up with the Joneses, will go out because they feel like they need to. Everyone else is going out, so I must be with them. If you can't afford it, be honest with your friends and family. If they truly are your friends, they'll understand. And they may even offer to change their plans to make sure you can be involved as well. If you don't speak up, people may assume that you can afford it and then you get pressured into doing things that you maybe can't afford to do this winter. So make sure you're honest with people about where you are with your kind of ability to do things. And if you are going to go out, make sure you're not wasting energy when you do that. Turn off your lights, yeah? Make sure you haven't got things on standby. You'll be amazed how much standby wastes in terms of going out. So make sure you've got your lights off, your heating is on a timer, and yeah, switch things off at the plug just to save that extra few pennies while you're out of the house. Lastly, we're going to talk about the festivities. It is that time of year where we want to celebrate and get together. Here are a few things you should be thinking about. First of all, similarly to the last point, talk to your friends and family. Yeah, maybe you've decided that you can't really afford to do presents this year. Have that conversation earlier with friends and family. Arrange how you're going to do your Christmas. For example, this year, we've arranged that we're just going to hand over the same gifts. We're not going to do massive gifts. We're going to do one gift each. If you say that in advance, no one will get disappointed. And if you are embarrassed about the fact that you can't do that, remember that you're not the only person in this situation this year. I have a new favourite saying. Tradition is peer pressure by dead people. Celebrate Christmas or whatever festivity you follow in your own way. It doesn't have to be the right way. You don't have to have turkey and lights if that's not what you want to do this Christmas. Celebrate the festivities your way. And consider if you're going to buy presents using Pouch to find savings. Pouch is a great website extension. Plug it into Chrome and it will show you if there's discount codes available to you on whatever you're about to buy. You can find that at pouch.co.uk. Last point here, lights do cost money, although not very much, 0.2 pence an hour for a 200 LED string. But if you're going to go nuts with the Christmas lights, it is going to cost you some pennies. Again, think about, is it what you want to do or are you following tradition? And remember that all those lights need to be turned off, not only for safety, but for cost as well. So that's just some of the ways that you can make this a little bit cheaper over the winter period. We're going to move right into real talk with a very special video from SGN. So, like I say, SGN are our sponsors and they have provided us with a video to share with you about ways for you to stay safe and warm over Christmas. So have a watch of these top 6 tips. Got to speak English. See what you think. Here we go. As always, our thanks to SGN for helping to sponsor this episode of the My Moneycast and some great tips there. Please make sure you're staying safe and warm over the winter period. And if you need any help, please ask. You've had SGN's top 6 tips. I think it's time for mine. So my 3 tips are really simple this year. Nothing too complicated. Here we go. Tip number 1. If you need help, speak. Okay? Please don't keep it to yourself. Lots of people who have never needed help before are finding themselves in a situation where they may need help for the first time. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. Please ask for help, whether that's from your gas, your energy company, from friends and family, or even from strangers or debt advice charities like Step Change. Help is on offer. If you want it, please take it. Number 2, you don't need to spend a fortune to celebrate this winter. Yeah, you can find ways to make things cheaper. And like I say, talking to people about your current situation might mean that you're not pressured into spending as much as you normally would. Lastly, you are not alone. Lots of people are feeling the pinch this year. Lots of people having to do things that they wouldn't normally do or do things in a kind of non-traditional way. Be honest with friends and family about what you're able to do and don't feel obliged to follow tradition. Remember, tradition is nothing but peer pressure from dead people. And that is our show again for another year. Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, please do feel free to put them in the chat and we'll get to those. As always, like I said last time, you can find us on our social media if you want to have a look at what we're doing after the show has ended. And you can email us at info@mybank.org if you want to send us any tips, tricks, want to be involved, etc, etc. Have a look on TikTok for our new Don't Get Snowed Under campaign and make sure you're taking those top tips to heart. And as always, I've been Nick Smith-Patel, the host for the My Moneycast, wishing you a very safe, enjoyable and warm winter season. Take care, good luck, bye-bye.